And good morning. It's Chris here. Chris Cordani is sitting in here at the pilot's chair, of course, for Tony Shaffer. Tony will be in just a little bit, but we're going to have a lot of fun with some good people. We are going to be talking with Chaplain Joshua Macias again, who was with us last week. We're going to talk to also Derrick Storms, Esquire, who has been helping out a lot of the J6 peaceful protesters. Yes, the good people who questioned the government and suffered for it. Where he's going to tell their stories and talk about how he and Joshua are helping people get back on their feet, uh, helping a lot of these people who were really terribly persecuted by the government and had their lives destroyed. We're also going to have Susan Olsen here. That's going to be great. She'll be here around 9:30, and Tony Shaffer. Hopefully, he's on the road now, but he'll be popping in and out with us too. But leading off with me today is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Welcome to the program, Dr. Corsi.
Chris, good to be with you. Thank you very much. Looking
It-
forward to it.
You're looking forward to the day, but Samantha Power is not.
I mean, she got $30 billion. What's she worried about?
I guess she'll probably go to a Camp Cupcake anyway if she winds up in jail in the first place, right?
Well, I mean, Elon Musk was pretty clear about that yesterday, and saying that Susan Rice had another one that ought to be investigated. But Samantha Powers, I guess, has like $30 million net worth, and her salary was $187,000. She didn't come into the job as a millionaire. So Musk is saying, and Trump's agreeing, and I agree. I mean, look, go after these people who come to government, like Obama. He's working on his credit cards, living on his credit cards, and suddenly he's got 3 mansions, all in trendy, beautiful places. He's got something in Hawaii, I believe, and something in, I know he's got something in Martha's Vineyard, and not worried about global warming, the sea rising. He's got a beachfront property. And here's Samantha Powers. And, okay, how'd you get all your money? Where'd you steal it? Who bribed you? Who paid you?
Yeah, what were you getting for all these silly financial boondoggles that the world was getting here? Like this again, $1.5 million for DEI training in Serbia. What is that? Somebody has to be getting something out of this, and you're saying, and politicians like this, people who are supposed to be in public service, are exponentially gaining their wealth. There are obvious ways they're doing this, and I know I can't make the accusation here. It's not good, but obviously something's wrong, and it should be investigated. Hey, if she managed, if she was a stock picking guru and made some lucky moves, fine, but it should be looked at. People have questions.
And people have legitimate questions. I mean, it goes all through government. We ought to look at the people in the House and Senate who come in broke and leave with millions of dollars. Or, Nancy Pelosi. I've been wanting to investigate the Presidio. The Presidio is this part of land in San Francisco that had been a government fort, because it's like at a particular point in San Francisco where the ships have to pass the Presidio. And it's like a strategic point where if there was a naval invasion of San Francisco, you want the Presidio to be able to attack the ships that are trying to get in to seize San Francisco. Now, that, of course, was a really important issue in the 1850s through recently.
They can have it back if they want, by the way.
Have the Presidio back as a military?
No, San Francisco. You can get
Well, so, Nancy Pelosi and her husband was in real estate. And so Nancy Pelosi gets the deal where she and her husband have the right to take the Presidio private and develop it for commercial purposes and residential purposes. And she made a fortune. Okay, now that's a sweetheart deal. Nancy Pelosi can trade on insider information in the stock market because the rules permit her to do that without violating the law. Because, she's going to get inside information on these government hearings. She's going to know all about corporations and what they're doing. I mean, if you could front run all of the corporate quarterly reports on profitability, you'd make a fortune. So here we are at the NSA. I still think that the NSA has the ability to monitor corporate CEOs, to know in advance how they're going to report whether there's a profit or a loss, how much of a profit or a loss, and whoever has that information can front run it on the stock market and make a fortune. Okay, so you're gonna have to convince me that the officials at the NSA aren't selling that information to somebody.
No, and you bring up the Pelosi's. Look, Nancy Pelosi has long been an advocate, or at least recently been an advocate for those 15-minute cities, so she can use San Francisco to ride her bike around
Yeah. Isn't that from is
wherever
that
she
the
wants to go.
isn't that from The Wizard of Oz? Isn't that one of
Yes.
the that that was what, the mother from The Wizard of Oz, or who
No, that
was
that
that?
was that was that crazy neighbor woman who stole the
Oh,
dog and
yes.
put it in the basket, and then she was really the wicked witch later on.
She became the Wicked Witch later in the movie. That's
Right,
right.
there we go.
She
That's right.
became that's right. I remember that.
That's right. And maybe she got hammered at the Pelosi's too. Well, that's
I'm
another
sure
story
she
for
was
another.
trading an insider information.
But
She knew the dog knew all the corporate profits, and so you wanted the dog to be able to trade on the stock market.
and of course, in the grand tradition, the ancient tradition of shoot the messenger, the left is aiming its sights at Elon Musk and Donald Trump for exposing all of this. This is not a left-right issue. The line's been drawn. This is not left versus right anymore. It's you're for the deep state or you're for the regular American citizen or taxpayer. Even
But
CNN is having a lot of trouble trying to hash this all out.
yeah, that's Jim Acosta. But the point is, it's you've got something queued up here. What? But the point, this is great theater because I want more. Give Maxine Waters more microphone
I
because
I want to get into there's something I'd like to get into at a future show. Maybe I'll touch on that. But she has been defending the South African government ever
yeah,
since vehemently now since Donald Trump said, "Hey, you know what they're doing? They're killing white farmers, and
right.
they're taking land from white farmers, and they're taking 30%. Apparently, they're taking 30% of interest from businesses that want to go in there if they're owned by." I guess white guys supposedly, but I'm going to double check that one. Elon Musk is having an issue with that, but she's screaming and defending these guys. I'd like to get more time for that one, but
Well,
let's
go and play the clip you've got.
well, this is CNN where Chris Sununu was telling uh, what's the name? Anderson Vanderbilt. Yes, telling Anderson Vanderbilt off about his defense of the U.S. aid and the government excessive spending.
It was surreal, but I got to tell you, I know what you're not showing here. Musk gave 7 specific examples off the top of his head of where the corruption and fraud were. I know you didn't play the clips. He was talking about a contractor that had a 3-month contract. He was paid for 20 years. He was talking about welfare benefits that were being paid to someone that was technically 150 years old. He was talking about line items in the treasury that had no justification.
There's no any actual, like he doesn't present any actual evidence.
Well, he's standing there in the Oval Office. Do you expect him to come in with 10,000 pages? And I have to be clear, to complain about this administration about transparency, when this president takes open questions on a daily basis, yet Joe Biden didn't show up for a press conference this 6 months, is insane.
Well,
These guys are being extremely transparent. They don't have to sit there and take the questions, but they do. It's all on the website. It's all out there.
It's not transparency to say things that have no factual background. I mean, to say we're cut.
At this point, Sununu's looking at this wimp over here, Lubin Tubin. About,
Yeah, well,
didn't I throw you in the locker in high school a few times?
Well, Tubin, I thought he was off CNN. He's the guy who masturbated on Zoom and let everybody see him masturbate. I thought they fired him.
No, because
They got the masturbator in chief here back on the air.
Yeah, yeah, the Me Too movement doesn't count for liberals. Don't forget, unless it's
That's right. I mean,
but maybe a couple of them. The tokens, like what was it, Franken and what's his name, Cuomo. But that's about it.
We've found $1 billion or $1 trillion in waste with no specifics. That's just talk. That's not transparency.
It's 23 days in.
Wait. What? Wait a minute. No specifics.
I know.
Musk listed out all these grants that the USAID is doing and what they are about, and showed $1 billion here and $1 billion here, and we're supporting LGBT and DEI, and we're transgender in Serbia.
The proof is there. They won't bother. Remember, just like that vice presidential debate, or no, it was the presidential debate. It was David Muir goes, well, a government official told me that nobody was doing anything or cooking animals, cats and dogs, or threatening people's neighbors. So we have to take their word for it. These guys are like, well, some Democrats told me that there's no proof or nothing actually happened, so that's going to be expressed as fact. Back in the day, journalists used to investigate things.
Well, but now today politics is all theater in terms of how the Democrats are doing. The Democratic Party is destroyed. By the way, Anderson Cooper looks like he's about ready to explode. And for CNN to have someone on it who is talking reason shows how desperate this network is. This network is about to go bankrupt. Nobody's watching it. They get 500 people watching it. They got a big deal. And you can't sell commercial time when your numbers are this bad, and the numbers, are monitored, so the industry numbers will sink CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Times, Washington Post, not the Washington Times, Washington Post, and the New York Times. All these leftist rags, which have done nothing but LGBT and CIA propaganda and promoting this war and that war, and Russia's bad and Russia's this and Russia that. I mean, the American people are sick of it. And I don't, Anderson Cooper with his bizarre lifestyle, and Jeffrey Toobin here with his bizarre lifestyle. And we're not supposed to take that into consideration. We're supposed to listen to these people.
Again, these are the thought leaders of those who act as lemmings. Those are the people who need reaffirmation that, hey, wait a minute, the government was there to help you out. The government's doing these things all for you. The fact is, they're not. There are people that were trusted by the far left, and look, people on the right too, the neocons as well. They had their hands in the pot for a very long time. And like you said on your show, and people can check out your show, The Truth Central, and soon to be Corsi Nation, that you had a clip of Lindsey Graham even saying, hey, look, you know what? I'm for using our money to influence nations like Africa and bring some or influence, beat China in the influence game, or take care of some things, or give people some clean water. And that's a good thing. But the abuses coming in of USAID right now are the stuff of basic major scandal. Yes,
the State Department, and together with this whole leftist CIA faction, have done nothing but want to have the rainbow flag flying with the U.S. flag in the U.S. embassies in countries where they stone and kill homosexuals. So, Muslim countries sure love the rainbow flag. and then you've got people like Victoria Nuland and this guy Vidman, if you remember in the Ukraine impeachment trial, when they're trying to get Donald Trump because he dared to ask Zelensky if they were investigating Hunter Biden.
That's
And
right.
then, it turns out Hunter Biden is a CIA operative, and that they were trying to. And so, look, the whole point.
He was sitting on these major meetings too, and it wasn't even Jill.
Well, the whole point with Samantha Powers and all these others is that if you can get the government to give a grant, you put it to a country like Ukraine, it shows up in Ukraine and goes to a bank owned by Kolomoisky, private bank. And the money is dispersed immediately to Cyprus and dozen other money laundering locations, and it's gone. So the money never reaches its objective. Okay, and it doesn't matter, because who's going to monitor a DEI grant in Serbia for how many millions of dollars given out by U.S. aid, and where does that money go? Who benefits from that money?
Exactly.
What firm gets that contract, and how much do they pay Samantha Powers for getting that contract to that company?
So the only thing Samantha Powers has really contributed to society at this point, besides her own bank account, was her cousin, who was starred in some great movies, Austin Powers. Dr. Corsi, I brought you here for another big reason, and this is very important. You were working on a big project with members of or people who were persecuted politically by the Biden administration after protesting peacefully on January 6th, and many of them being escorted inside the White House by police. And the agitators who may have been, or very likely plants by the government trying to screw things around and make everybody look bad. At this point, the Biden administration was keeping political prisoners. They were ruining lives and everything else. And I want to bring in two very special guests that you introduced me to. And I want to reintroduce one to our Patriot family and introduce another. Chaplain Joshua Macias has been with us before. Thank you for joining us once again. And of course, Derrick Storms, Derrick Storms Esquire, who you've been helping people out legally as well when when they're being harassed by the government, or things are happening to them. And of course, you both are also helping these very good people put their lives together after they were ruined by the government, who was contracted or supposed to be protecting us.
I think, first of all, Josh, any updates on how many of the J6ers are still in prison?
Yes, and thank you. It's good to be here with Wake Up Patriots, be able to communicate about what's going on with the J6 veteran community and J6 Patriots. There's currently, right now, 5 that are still incarcerated. Jeremy Michael Brown is still incarcerated. Daniel Ball just got released on bail, which we're grateful for that. But we know that Benjamin Martin just got transferred. So they're playing these games, moving guys around still. Dominic Box is still incarcerated. Edward Kelly is still incarcerated. And Tina Peters is still incarcerated. They're still playing these games with maneuvering, legal lawfare. Derrick can speak to that, but these state challenges are still ongoing, and we are still fighting for their release. We almost had them out, and now we're dealing with the system.
And Derrick, you're the attorney for both Veterans for Trump and also for the J6 organizations. J6.org, isn't that right, Josh? J6.org?
J6vets.org, yes, sir.
JCvets.org. And so Derrick, I guess they're saying that there are state charges now that these J6ers who are yet in prison can be brought up on, then the pardon doesn't extend to state charges. Is that correct? What are the legal ramifications here, and what can we do?
That's correct. I mean, unfortunately, President Trump's pardon, he can only pardon for federal crimes, not state crimes. In order to do that, you need a state governor in the state where the conviction was made to make that pardon. So, that's a whole nother lobbying effort to those governors to make those pardons, which we are working on now to see what can be done there. We also need the FBI files and the files from Justice to find out what was happening behind the scenes as far as the collusion operation, to see if we can vacate convictions based on things like malicious prosecution and things of that nature. So there's 2 routes to do that: the pardon and then a filing in court. The problem is when you make a filing in court, you're dealing with these lunatic judges. The American people are seeing what these judges are trying to do to President Trump's agenda now. You guys mentioned what DOJ's incredible efforts reining back these bureaucracies. Who doesn't want fraud, rampant fraud? Many of this money going overseas in U.S. aid for garbage, probably not even being spent for anything, just enriching people. And you have these lunatic judges trying to stop that. So really what there is there's an underlying issue here. It's a serious accountability problem in our government, in all branches of government, even to these judges. So we need serious reforms, not only doing just basic things like, our Congress members can't engage in insider trading so they can enrich themselves and make better relationships with their cronies and businesses. But we need things to check these swamp creatures who are emerging in black robes. And we're brainstorming on ways to do that. I think we need serious ethics reforms in the judiciary. A lot of these judges were completely biased against the J6ers, as they are against President Trump and anything that really benefits America. It's quite shocking, but we need to rein them in. So we're looking at amending the ethics laws, and we need to strengthen laws that just protect the people in general, preserving our constitutional rights. And I see Chris has a question. I can go into that later.
Right. Well, let's talk about actually convincing, or let's talk about actually proving. How do you prove that a judge? Now we know this because you'll see this mostly comes out of Biden and Obama employees, or excuse me, appointees trying to take down the J6ers and of course challenge Trump on the pardon. It's all about Trump, really, pretty much at this point. The question is though, how do we go about going over these judges' heads and actually proving in court that these guys did not act in a or act biasly or did not act in the best interests of justice? having said that, they can turn around. These judges can turn around and say, "Well, that's what the law said. In fact, we can use the Constitution, blah blah, insurrection clause, and things like that. We weren't partisan or anything like that. It's on paper that way." And the fact is, we all know they were, but you can't always legislate ethics, and that's another issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, believe it or not, some of the J6ers were able to do it. Gabriel Garcia, he was a former Army captain who, went inside the Capitol. He was the one saying, Nancy, come out and play. Not necessarily Nancy Pelosi, just Nancy. So, of course, Nancy Pelosi wanted to make example out of him. They wanted to lock him up and throw away the key. He went through numerous attorneys. A lot of these DC attorneys were not really effectively representing him. He ended up representing himself. And the DC judge at one hearing in court had said, "Oh, well, when we do find you convicted, prior to the jury, making a conviction," she made that statement. He eventually lost his case, but he won on appeal. And the appeals court said this was a clearly biased statement from this judge. So he was one of the few that actually won. He didn't need the pardon. He won. And quite shockingly, he did it pro se on his own, because a lot of these attorneys, these DC attorneys, are fearful that if they buck the system too much, there will be retaliation, because these people are vicious. They are absolutely vicious. They will go after anybody they can, lawyers, family, anybody, to destroy them. And as we're still seeing that now, some of them were pardoned. Well, they said, "Oh, well, you weren't pardoned on this gun that we found underneath your sink, that the FBI found underneath your sink." Well, they never had a gun under their sink. It was planted there. So they don't stop at the lawfare. And really what we need is serious reforms in this country, accountability against all branches of government. The government has become too powerful, all branches, at the expense of the people. And our constitutional protections are just not being preserved. And then you go to court and you try to sue to defend your constitutional rights. 9 times out of 10, your case gets dismissed by these judges.
Yeah, I want to ask, let me ask Josh, the whole idea of the veterans, which this country has not supported. We have 20 veteran suicides a day. I mean, it's something
44 to 50, Dr. Corsi.
Outrageous. And they're
self-inflicted wounds.
We need to. I'd love to move the entire bureaucracy to Death Valley, demolish the solar and wind they want, and take the federal buildings and turn them into housing for the military when they retire.
And they can take the wind turbines too if they want as well.
They take we've got to have a pathway here, where the military are recognized for their service during service and after service. You want to comment on that, because these courts who are just hostile to the military, especially if they're pro-Trump, and also comment on the recruitment is suddenly booming when Trump. Go ahead, Joshua.
While we do that, I want to bring in our next guest. I want to bring in Susan Olsen, who is with us as well, actress and former radio host, of course, also a frequent radio guest. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Hey, thank you. Chris knows I've begged him because I wanted to meet Dr. Corsi, because Jerome Corsi single-handedly saved my sanity during COVID.
Oh, praise God. Thank you for that.
And every J6er is my hero as well.
Well,
hello, Suzanne. Thank you.
So we wanted to bring Susan in to ask some questions and talk
to
you.
We also are very big fans of the Brady Bunch. So
yes. all of us. Trust me.
All of us. We all watched.
We're all the fandom. So
we're all fans. We're all fans. Joshua, you want to respond to
yes, Dr. Corsi. So I appreciate.
Let's address Jerry's question.
Yes, I appreciate that and your focus as well. We really have been fighting an anti-veteran sentiment for over 50 years, quite frankly. With my cousin coming back and my uncle as well from Vietnam, having bricks thrown at them, having to take off their uniforms and go in their skivvies to go home, so it wasn't known that they were Vietnam veterans, to the Afghan veterans today being kicked in the face and spit in the face as they leave Kabul. When we think about the U.S. 13 Marines, may they rest in peace and all their families find justice for what happened that day. But what we have found is this true spirit of Antichrist. I'm a chaplain, Protestant chaplain, but work with Catholics and every other denomination there is out there. And we focus in on the spirit of communication. And what we're finding is the spirit of Antichrist that pervades this true Marxist ideology that is all throughout our system. And that's what Derrick is also speaking about, right? We have this Marxist ideology that find me a man, and as Stalin said, and I'll tell you what he did wrong. And they come at him in a way that is you're guilty until proven innocent in this court if you come against the matrix, right? At any step of the way that you step up against a system that is there meant to grind you into dust and to destroy any free will and anything that is juxtaposed to the communist Marxist ideology, which is an anti-Christ statement. They do not want the spirit of life. They are not about the sanctity of life. They quite frankly want to see us dead, rolled over, and thrown into the dustbin of history. And as you see right now, the DOD is great at making warriors, okay? They're good at doing that because the military-industrial complex wants them to be good warriors to continue to do their dirty work. But when we get out, the DOD has no clue how to make civilians. And quite frankly, civilians don't know how to make civilians in a way that is focused on the ideology of what is to take care of America. So what we have to do, quite frankly, is a 2.0 mindset. Instead of kicking veterans out of military active duty, out of service, we need to pull them into community. And that's what we've been doing with On Your Six Foundation is we are helping to create communities where veterans are put first in the community. So we work on the most critical need veterans, which are those that are homeless or those that are dealing with trauma or those who are coming through intense medical or recovery needs. We put them first, take care of them first, and then we wrap around with our active duty military, our government employees, our first responder community counterparts, and their families. By creating communities like this, what we're doing is we're focusing on the major core issues, which are that the veterans are put to the back of the bus. You know, when I was 18, 20 years old, I'm working on gear that's millions of dollars, okay? By the time I was 21 years old as engineering officer of the watch, I had at least $1.5 billion of engineering equipment underneath my signature. So by the time you're 20 years old, you're dealing with things that are beyond your comprehension when you were younger, but you're managing it. You're doing it great. You're operationally maintaining. You're succeeding down at the war front, overseas, okay, without problem, honorably serving. Then you come home to an anti-veteran sentiment that says, I won't even give you the keys to my shoe store to start selling my shoes. Like, what is this? Why do we have such a dichotomy? Well, the reason is they're afraid of our community. They quite frankly are afraid of an America that has a backbone, that is solid to the core, that a military that is lethal, that is then put into the civilian community that is capable, that may be the guy who's taking the trash out of the curb, but just a couple of years ago was proficient with an M4, and it's just another pair of boots for him to step up and do whatever is necessary to take care of his community. And that's what we saw in North Carolina when they were coming against us with our On Your Six relief. The same with Milton and Florida, as they were stopping us everywhere we went. And this is not the state, this is the federal government standing in our way to help our citizens. And veterans, when they come together, are more than capable, competent, and able to handle whatever is in front of them. And especially are juxtaposed because we believe in the oath to defend our Constitution against both foreign and domestic enemies, and we are capable of doing so. Of the 20 million or so veterans that are out there, over the past 40 years, we have fought Wahhabism. That makes about 14 million veterans that are combat capable, that have served overseas, that are now in the United States. How useful is that training? How capable of taking care of our communities are our veterans? How strong is their leadership? And we need veterans to lead once more. And they need to receive their voice. And it started here with the J6 veterans. And for those that have been destitute, discouraged, and in debt, as we help them to get back on their feet again, to stand up for the community and be pillars of light and example to make a difference around our country. And we can do this today. And underneath Trump's executive orders, as well as the Veterans for Trump community and the 10-point V reform plan being implemented now, we can really eradicate veteran homelessness in the 4 years that President Trump is 47. And I believe that inherently.
Susan, why don't you get into the mix here?
Yeah, let's get Susan.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that, at the core of this, you're exactly right. They do not want a populace that has a spine or that has ideals or standards or character. And yes, it is a godless thing. I like to translate for the person who doesn't have religion. It's still just as evil. And it's about, wanting people that don't believe in anything and that don't have any standards. And when we have illegal migrants being housed in luxury hotels while our veterans are
Thank you,
homeless
Suzanne.
on the
Preach it.
streets.
And American citizens are
Let's talk
suffering from
about it.
after weather issues. Yeah, that's very
They're
important.
kicking
But
out our
we've had
Korean
homeless veterans.
veterans.
We've had homeless veterans for decades. It's been horrible especially since Vietnam. And we had very liberal governments who always said, "Well, we're going to help. We're going to help people. We're the ones who are going to reach out our hands and help you." They never seem to be able to help the veterans. They keep talking about it. Back in the Clinton era, do you guys remember the Clark report from back during the Bill Clinton era, the late 80s, the late 90s?
Sure, I remember it.
Congresswoman Sue Kelly gave that to me when I was working at a local TV station. It was the idea that Togo West, who was the Veterans Affairs secretary, was trying to move facilities from some parts of the country, like the Northeast, to other parts of the country, like the Southeast. So then a lot of huge populations of veterans would go even more ignored than they were.
Well,
It's a major.
Go ahead.
It's a major
Josh.
problem. It really is a major problem. And I think, Suzanne, you hit the nail on the head there. $56 million. And that was just last week, folks.
Yeah.
Of this last week. Okay. I dealt with this with our veterans in New York as they're being kicked out of these hotels when they're under rapid recovery position, getting the needs that they needed in order to transition safely. And then they're kicked out into the cold because an illegal took their place. It was just, not only does it upset me now thinking about it, but of what that veteran had to go through to then get transitioned and get out in a wheelchair. I mean, like, this is preposterous. How dare they do this to our service members and yet put those who are criminals before us? It is a total juxtaposed reverse dichotomy of what really should be happening, which every American, this is a populist statement. This is a red, white, and blue conversation. When I was working with the Obama administration, even about this, we increased it from 36,000 to 76,000 HUD-VASH vouchers, knowing that that was just the 20% increase that we needed. All they've been doing is dealing with the surplus of extra, because we're in a housing crisis. It's a true epidemic. Not the pandemic. Okay, this is true epidemic proportions. Okay,
love it. All right, wait, that gets a heyo. All right, see, that's a good one.
Yeah,
it's harder to do that when I'm hosting rather than sidekicking, but
Well, and Derek, I want to get you all also into this. I mean, let's say Corsi Nation's going to launch again. I'm going to launch it. Let's say we take the organization, the J6 vets, and we get you to be a sponsor. Not no payment to it. There doesn't have to be any payment to it. But what we do is we create partnerships with corporations that want to hire vets, and with communities that want to build housing for vets, and that we make these the objectives of what we're doing. So we take what Josh has developed, and Derek, you just got to see the facility that Josh has created in Florida. Why don't you discuss that? Because we could do that all over the country.
Yeah,
yes, we can.
The facility in Homestead, Florida. I was down there for a few days. It's incredible. I believe there's about 6 towers, huge number of units. Correct me, is it 250 units, Josh?
270 apartments active now.
270 apartments.
390 to be 690 will be completed.
Yes, they're gonna develop some more, but right now there's well over 200 developed, and Josh and I are planning on making this a complete community of vets. There's already quite a few veterans there. I believe 90, Josh?
Yes.
All right. There's already about 90 veterans there. What makes this facility different than definitely the VA and many other facilities? We're not medicating them and turning them into zombies like the VA does. The VA doesn't want to deal with serious psychiatric treatment because it's difficult. They just want to give people a drug and say, okay, go home, calm down. That's it. These veterans end up becoming depressed. You know, they're not spiritually healed. And this is another component that Josh is doing. In conjunction with the deep therapy, we're bringing back spirituality, which the left has done its best to stomp out, but you just cannot stomp that out. That is the root of humanity, of what we are. We're spiritual beings, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in God or not. You know, we operate on a spiritual level. So a person that comes back from war for 5 or 10 years, their spirit they're completely wired. You're not just going to medicate that person like the VA does. This person has to go through an extended healing process. That is what the community is about. We've been speaking to some partners. I'm not going to name them now, but these are neuro doctors that developed deep modalities, and we're talking about having them set up on the first floor of the facility in Homestead, and that's going to be kind of a trial to how this goes, to see how that goes with the veterans. If it does go well, we want to launch this model nationwide.
I want, with the Corsi Nation platform, we're going to invite corporations that want to build, corporations that want to hire, corporations that want to participate. We'll raise millions of dollars, and it'll go entirely to this effort to get the vets back into society in a productive way. And so right now we want to get the legal immigrants rounded up. Well, if we're going to get any serious, this is going to have to be done with contracts to private companies. And the vets are going to be able to participate in this because they've got all the training that needed to handle what is essentially a military mission.
Yes, and we stand at the ready, Dr. Corsi. And I appreciate your statement about Corsi Nation. It's an honor to work with you in the community and bring this to light and it's a smart decision, because every veteran's life that we save is a matter of national security. Every day that we are losing veterans to self-inflicted wounds, we're losing, as President Trump said, the greatest treasure of America. And that is the U.S. veteran, the service-connected, disabled, honorably discharged veteran. Even more so is one who has given so much for our country and needs to stand with the keys and the eyesight forward with the training that comes alongside the crucible of war, which those who haven't been through it don't understand it. And once you go through it, you don't even need to bring it up again because you already understand. And as Derrick and I communicate, it doesn't matter whether you're under the Department of Navy, the Army, Air Force, okay? It doesn't matter. Coast Guard even, like, we love those guys. But ultimately, the National Guard has stepped in too. You know, there are so many that understand the crucible of war, and they understand what it's like to be downrange. But then when it come home, there's a disconnect. And that's where America has failed in its contract with the U.S. service member. And we're going to hold them to account. And with your assistance in a true PPP, public-private partnership, we can make this happen across America today.
Well, we're going to do this. Corsi Nation is going to launch in the beginning of March, and you'll be an integral part of the show.
And of course, we'd like to have you guys on this show too. And we'd like to have you guys on here to talk about all this as well.
Yeah, we'll do it too. It won't be the only platform, but it's certainly going to be a home platform for the
Corsi Nation will be the home platform for all of this. And it's a great thing because now you can actually talk to a lot of other people within and without the organization, have people you helped on. It's going to be, it is actually going to be it's going to be a positive thing for everybody all around, not just the J6ers and people who need some help, but those people who really don't know anything about what happened there.
Yeah, and Chris, this is really part of the America First agenda. I think, you know, what in voting for President Trump, you know, the voters didn't just want to destroy DEI and these destructive woke policies and get the government out of their schools and bring back values and things. What they wanted was to bring back the American of old that respects veterans, that has morals, that, you know, believes in teaching ABC and 1, 2, 3s in schools instead of just politicizing our children. So I think this ties into the broader populist movement that is spreading across America rapidly. And we're seeing that Americans do respect their vets. If anybody should have a preference, a job preference or a bidding preference in a government contract, it should be a veteran, because you've earned it. You weren't born with it. It's not some political group that's lobbying for you. You know, one thing, when I was in the Marine Corps, when you're under fire, you're not looking at the person's skin in the foxhole next to you. The only thing you see when bullets are coming at you is Marine Corps green.
Oh, yeah.
You also made a big sacrifice. You put your lives on hold, put yourselves in harm's way, and so a lot of your friends get killed. Many of you definitely got wounded. And the idea was, yeah, we should pay you back for that. The American public, the American taxpayers shouldn't be giving money for transgender comic books. You know what? That can help veterans who can't walk at this point buy food or help support their families.
And we need it.
Exactly. I want to go. I want to go one of the Patriots.
Let Susan jump into this.
I do want to go one thing. I got a Patriot first. One Patriot said,
Chris,
said it was
Okay, Chris. Let Susan jump in.
Okay, Susan, let's go first. I got a Patriot next.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just consider the discipline, the training, the mindset, the mind training, the mental training, the physical training, all of that every veteran goes through, just in boot camp. I mean, isn't that the most perfect person for any job? Talk about self-discipline.
Yes. Well, we showed up too, Suzanne. It's one thing to show up on your job, right, and be late sometimes. But Derrick, what happens for a Marine if he's late? What? Forget about it. Right?
You arrive 15 minutes early. You don't dare show up late.
You don't dare show up late.
You won't be able to move the next day. You'll do so much.
Every day, every month, every year of their service, they show up. And you get that kind of consistency out of nowhere. There's no organization, college, doesn't matter what job you go through. And yes, we gave Chris the best of our lives to the US government and said, hey, make me your slave. I'll do whatever it is you ask me to do. If it is for my country, for my constitution, put my life on the line, go wherever you tell me to go. I will stand whatever watch you need me to do. I will forego sleep. They make us into warriors and they mutate us. I mean, majority of us are mutated genetically with what's called the warrior gene. And so we can find that out. We can talk about the neuroscience and science of all of that.
I can tell Josh Chaplin has it. He sleeps about 4 hours a night.
Yeah, it happens. Okay, that's true. When they put us through it, you just grind different. You're at a different pace. And so use that force, use that strength to take care of our community. Because as Chris said, when we signed the dotted line, when I put my life on the line at 17 and I get signed away by my mother, it said, America will make you whole again. And that was a level of comfort to me that no matter what happened, if I took a shrapnel round or got T-boned at 19 and took out my shoulder, whatever happened, I knew that ultimately America would have my back. And that's what I went into strength with, because I trusted that as my other generation family did as well, that we would be taken care of. And that's where America's failed in its contract to our service member. We need to make that right.
I did want to go back to a point you made we talked about Vietnam and homeless veterans, and we do have a live chat here. And one of our Patriots on the live chat, Man K, was talking about how it was still much, much worse when the Vietnam vets came home. And though he mentioned there was progress since then, it's a lot better today. It's just not a lot better today. We have to hit the why, and we have to hit the improvements here.
Yes, we're not receiving bricks in the face at the airports. Okay, we appreciate that, and we do see some encouragement to the service member when they are in travel. But I got to tell you, once we get a community, it's not happening. They'd rather see us in the bushes or in the swamp or something, but not in community, and that's where the battle really is. So although they may not be in your face about it, but when you're standing on the corner with a veteran hat and maybe a Trump sign, trust me, you see the vitriol.
Well, I want to make another point here, and that is, let's talk about the businesses that want to get involved. The veterans are a big market. Now Budweiser can go after the LGBT with their nonsense.
Their Bud Light wannabe.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! They changed that. They told.
They immediately changed that. Now, but that shows the power of the America First audience. We mobilized the America First audience to support those companies that will support the vets,
That's
we
right.
can do a huge amount of, getting contributions to build these communities around the country. And if we start building these communities as a landing place for the military when they get out of service, with a whole transition into civilian life planned, we can have productive people emerge that can take the skills that they've developed in the military and apply them commercially to a productive life afterward, rapidly, right? Instantly.
It's so fast. It's instant.
How could you get such a trained force? I mean, who would not want to have military in their
Do you know
employment?
the amount of information that we have to go through? It's like what we say in the nuclear power program. It was like taking a fire hydrant into a garden hose. Okay, the amount of pressure and information that we have to absorb and then regurgitate. So for a normal transition, let's say just college life, 4 years of service compared to a service member, it's like a 3-to-1 ratio, just about. Okay, in life experience, when they say accelerate your life, and that goes back to why Pete Hegseth is the largest influx of service members, because we ourselves grow our own. And even my friend Tony, his son is going into the Marines right now. Tony Lamata, who stood with me in the thick and thin as a J6er and covered my six no matter what was going on, he is saying, hey, go in now. You're under Trump. What a great time. You have Pete Hegseth, the DOD. This is a time to get ranked, buddy. Go in now, learn, get your medal. Because for us, that's what it's about. It's about earning the rite of passage and earning your medal and showing yourself in your service. And just as every other generation before us has done in my family, you go into service, you take care of business, you handle, protect, and you come home and build. And that's what we have been about. It's the backbone of America from the Wild West to now. And that's what we need to see again for the future, this new winning mindset that President Trump is bringing, because a vet first policy is an America first policy. And if you're going to tell me is America first, you're not for best first, I don't think you pass the litmus test.
And Dr. Corsi, along that note, I think we need legislation that encourages these companies to do just that, what you're talking about. We need additional tax breaks if you're hiring veterans, if you're hiring service disabled veterans, if you're training these guys and giving them jobs who, as you mentioned, are among the most loyal citizens in the country, hardworking. I think that we need tax breaks for these companies. I think veterans themselves need income tax breaks. I think if you've gone to war and put your life on the line, I think that there should be special federal income tax breaks for veterans, as well as real estate tax breaks. Some states have that. I know Florida has real estate tax breaks for service disabled veterans. Unfortunately, it only applies to members 65 years old and over. Well, I think that if you come back from war 25 years old and you ran over an IED and you lost a leg and you have a TBI, you shouldn't have to wait till you're 65. So at least there are some laws on the books doing that, but that should be part of the show. We need to encourage legislators and work with our members of Congress to truly honor and dignify our service members and really encourage that and exemplify that these are the people that young kids should inspire to be, not green-haired monsters that wanted sex change and
wear high heels.
Yeah,
soy munching latte drinkers.
All they can seem to do is complain and scream and show up to rallies at a sign. That's not good for America. That's good for the left, because what that's doing is they want distractions. They don't want accountability for what we're seeing. These contracts where people are getting paid $30 million to basically do nothing for 20 years. It's a three-month contract, and 20 years later they're still getting money. It's a racket. It's corruption. Thank God Trump ordered Elon Musk to do this, and we're uncovering this. I think we're going to uncover a lot more in the Department of Defense. And the more we dig, the more we're going to find. And this is the problem with the left. They don't like receipts. They like to cut you off immediately. They like to say, "Oh, there's no need for an investigation. You didn't find anything." That's been the status quo since the first election was stolen in 2020. And that's their playbook that's continuing. Well, they can't do that now because Musk and his super geniuses have, thousands of receipts already. So now they're suing, they're using the courts to block and do everything they can, but it's not working. So
And Susan,
this is an Obama error, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, this Doge was created by Obama. If you quite go,
that's right.
Yes.
Yes, it was an Obama era. Yes.
Rentz, friend of mine, went through the whole executive order, expecting some illegal power grab, and found that it's all airtight. It turns out Trump and Musk didn't create anything, right? Obama did it all.
That's exactly right.
During the USDS in 2014.
But it was good when Obama did it.
Yeah, of course.
Susan,
you commented about COVID, and of course, in COVID we were finding ways through telemedicine to provide the hydroxychloroquine. I was working with Dr. Zelenko. But you've gone through the amount of government lying, and I mean, the government lying and propaganda that is essentially condemned Americans to die when there were solutions in the pandemic, and now are doing nothing for the veterans. So again, but we finally got a Secretary of Defense who's willing to pump iron with the troops. I mean, Hegseth is out there lifting with the troops, and so you've got a guy who is really part of understanding. He's recent enough out of the military, and I met him, and he's a warrior. He's truly, Susan, you want to comment on all that?
Yeah, because I think that people that voted like I did, it's not just about America first, it's about Americans first. And we are aware of this esoteric thing called the Great Reset, and that there are motions to prevent people from owning real estate in the first place. They don't want us to do that. Dr. Corsi, I was already aware that there was a great deception going on before COVID. And, every night I couldn't wait to watch your podcast because I was like, this doesn't smell right. There's something wrong here. And then, things just weren't adding up. But I think what's really scary for people to realize is when they look at what's actually gone on. And then J6 was just like, oh, my God. This is exactly what our country was created to not do. When you really look at what's happening, you realize, no, it's not a mistake. This isn't ineptitude. This is deliberate, and it's destructive, and it's designed to make us all feel the chaos. And, with any totalitarian takeover, you create chaos so that the people can't really defend themselves. And it just seems very obvious to me that that's what's been going on here.
Yeah, and
uncover more.
Susan, I want to bring up a point that you brought up earlier. I want to bring up a point that you brought up earlier, because you said that these people who are against the J6ers and against what these nice people and the veterans are against helping veterans like they should be helping, and against what Donald Trump is doing, you said they're godless. And this is true, but their God is more not like a real God, not like a real religion. Their God is the state. Their God is celebrity or celebrity who agrees with the left. But their God is the state, and their God is man. So when the January 6th mostly peaceful protesters, and I'm using that in proper context, they were there. They said they were there to ask questions of the government, and some people got to walk in. It's like, to these people, their temple, their big sacred worship center, the Capitol building, was infiltrated by people who questioned their religion, their state religion. That's what happened, and they just didn't know what to do. So they listened to their followers who said, "This is the insurrection. People should go to jail," and that's what happened there. And this is the left's mentality at this point. If you don't have a God, you have to worship something. And you guys you guys walked into their temple, and they were intimidated and scared. And Susan, you really brought that point up to a perfectly.
Well, and it's hard to imagine, but there are people who want to be ruled. I mean, they don't want to have to make the decisions on their own. They don't want the challenge of critical thinking. And I think even more, their gods. I don't think they realize that the government is their God. I think it's more so the media.
Yeah.
So
That's
whatever
another
the
one.
media
That's
says.
a double God, I guess. That
Yeah.
God and God's messenger.
Yeah.
That's for them. Yes, for them. For them, that's what it is.
Because they just, they just let, they're spoon fed their thoughts by turning on the TV, and that's it. God has spoken.
So true, Suzanne. They really have a great delusion, as it says in the scriptures. And I see it as we see even Fetterman, right? As Dr. Corsi pointed out last time we were talking, the more his mind heals, the more conservative he gets.
Yeah.
So it really is a
Exactly.
mental disorder, right?
The
But
motor
it's a
skills, the
spiritual
brain
one,
skills get
too.
better.
Because they all intertwine. Like mind, heart, and your soul is connected to spirit, man, as even Derrick was talking about it. And Jesus put this out in Luke 16, verse 13. No one can serve two masters. Either you'll hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And that's what they're fighting against right now. Doge is going after their God, which is money. Okay, he is going after their God and clearly redefining the conversation here that no, God is sovereign. Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. He is sovereign and he has all authority, and you don't. So, okay, your God being mammon, your God being money, and this transgender, fake, satanic worshiping spirit of Antichrist does not have a place here, you Marxist ideologists. Okay, that needs to come out of the country, and we need to have the living water, which is Jesus, brought back into, as he did in 2016. He brought prayer back into the White House. We need the living water to bring a spring of wellness and a wellspring of life that comes only from the source, which is Jesus, for everything else to be removed in the swamp, because it takes fresh water to replace it and to drain it out. So that's what we need at the center of everything.
I have a hard break right about now, and I want to thank everybody for being here. And but I do have to. I'll go right now because I've got really a hard break at 10 o'clock or 1 minute.
It is the end of the show. And Dr. Corsi, thank you for being with us, and thank you for introducing all of us to Derrick and Joshua. And to your point, Derrick and Joshua, the only waters we don't need is Maxine waters, but that's another story for another day. But we are coming up to the end of the program. And Dr. Corsi, thanks for being with us. Derrick, Chaplain Joshua, thank you for being with us. We're doing this again. We're going to catch your movement on the Truth Central and Corsi Nation. That's going to be translated to Corsi Nation. Susan, thank you for being with us. I love having you.
Susan. Thank you for letting me be here. I just wanted
I love that guitar.
I always want you here. I always want you here. So you do this with us if you'd like to do this with us again when Joshua and Derrick are on. We'd love to have you.
So early.
I know.
You're California.
This is a live show. Maybe we'll have to get you on with one of Jerry's shows.
Let's wake up. We'll get more coffee. We'll get more coffee next time. God bless everybody.
Patriots, thank you for joining us. Thank you for another edition of Wake Up Patriots. Trixie and Deborah Lynn are going to be taking the reins tomorrow and Friday. I'll be back with Tony Shaffer on Monday, or I should say Tony Shaffer will be back with me because I'm the sidekick around here. That's right. I'm the Ed McMahon. So and he's the Johnny. We're going to talk to you, and we're going to have some very special guests in the coming week. So thank you for being with us, and have an excellent day.